The like I was saying, the process is that you're still going to have to utilize levels or reference planes. It doesn't look like it's completely resolved yet within the software to host to that ceiling. But I don't know, maybe I misread it, but all the fixtures out of the box ones are hosting nicely to walls or floors. They won't go to the ceiling. So the good thing is in your quiver of tools, you have the HLB fixtures ready to go. All of those are a non-hosted fixture. You could have an architect working in AutoCAD, and you could be working in Revit, and that would be fine because it doesn't require anything to host to.
So that would be, I guess, that's a big distinction to make. If we were to go into CAD or documentation without a model in place, we would have to, I mean, really, realistically use the unhosted fixtures.
Yep.
Whereas within Revit itself, we have the option of
using either. Correct. Yeah, that's it. And the big distinction is that with using the non-hosted fixtures, your HLB fixtures, one issue is that you have to manually set their height. So you have to be very careful about where they are. Unlike the hosted fixture, where you place the hosted fixture on a reference plane or a level, it automatically goes to that point. And we've mentioned before that we can lock it to a ceiling so that it goes up and down if the elevation changes. There is, that's probably the easiest way. I mean, by using the HLB fixtures, which are floating, they really are helpful. You have to lock each individual fixture to the ceiling. It's really not bad. Let me go through that process for you quickly. HLB recessed, parabolic troffer. We'll drop one of those into this little bathroom. Look, it sets nicely. We can see it immediately. Comes in at 8 feet. Now look at this. I'm going to use my align command, AL, to align to the grid. I did.
HLB recess parabolic troffer.
So there it is. The thing that it requires you to do, though, as a user, somewhat difficult, is that you need to go around and make sure that you have a little section following you around that you can go in, right-click, go to View. Okay, there it is. It's actually below our ceiling level, okay? So you need to go through the process of doing an AL for align. Line 2. Align to that ceiling, and then, I don't know what I referenced to, AL. I'm going to try to align to the ceiling if possible.
You were placed on a work plane, right?
That was free. It was not placed on anything.
Because just because one of the things that, again, that I've noticed in the past, I noticed this as well, if you do reference plane or level and you place it on that work plane, recessed fixtures coming upside down.
Right.
So you have to flip them.
Yep.
That's all.
And do you know, can you do that in plan? I'm trying to think. Can you flip them, or do you have to go into elevation?
You can, but for some fixtures, I found that when you do that, it also changes the orientation.
Oh, okay.
So it'll flip it around with it. I mean, which is good to see in plan, but
I couldn't remember if
it
it flips it.
There's a flip. The flip button will come up.
None of the created elements are visible or reflect the ceiling plan.
Okay.
Maybe I'll check that.
Okay, that's actually good. So I see. That's one of the things about this HLB, the non-hosted versions, is you have to be conscious of where they're going. Actually, it inserted at 0 feet, 0 inches above the finished floor. So you can actually change that elevation before you place one. Just rather than chasing that one down and where you put it, change your offset into 8 feet. before you place it. Change, or if you start lighting fixture, you change that offset to 8 feet before you start placing. That will help. Working out decently for you? They're foolproof. That's the great thing about the non-hosted fixtures. What's wrong at all? Oh, so what you do is right there. You change it to 8 before you start placing it. So it's automatic updating. The mounting height and the offset, that may be a predetermined. It may not actually be changing anything. Well, let's see if you go in at 8. Yeah, there it is. It's showing up. Cool. You're welcome. Okay, so those fixtures are the safe ones to use.
To go into your plan, take out.
Sometimes it's offset, sometimes it's elevation.
Yeah.
It's what the software defaulted to. And you're using a hosted fixture. Let's see if we can place on face. Yeah, it's not letting us. There we go. It won't find the ceiling height. This is a carryover. Actually, when Lindsay and I first met, I was working with an MEP firm that was 100% Revit all the time. They did not use AutoCAD anymore. So even if their architects were in AutoCAD, they were still using Revit. And they were doing it through things like this. They were utilizing non-hosted entities that they could wire to, that they could, of course their ductwork and all those things didn't require a host because the tool was so much more productive. Several firms were doing that. And I think structural engineers have been doing it for even much longer than most of the other consultant disciplines. Yeah, exactly. So instead of, when we linked in the Revit file as the base model, exactly, you just link in the CAD files in a very similar manner. Yep. Yep. So if it's not showing up, a few things you can do. If you're trying to seek out a fixture, you can go into your project browser and go browse to that fixture. You can right-click on it and say, select all instances in entire project. And it goes and finds all of them in the project. Maybe that helps you then identify it. Oh, okay, great. Now, one thing too, after I made those interior elevations, I know sometimes the scale is really, really hard to see on these levels. Look at this. If you're just in a working view, this is the virtue of having working views, is just change that scale to something more sensible so that the level heads aren't in the way. It's one of the more annoying things. You'll just need to scale it down because it's a working view. It's never ending up on a sheet, right? So you can do anything you want to do in here.
Offer here goes up on top of my ceiling, which is essentially.
So can you move it down? So select it first, select the light fixture, and then do MV, Yeah. See, that's the nice thing. It's a free floating
No,
entity.
but I guess my question is, because it's a recessed fixture, it shouldn't be.
That's right, and you can control it. You can place it anywhere you want it to be. So you can do like where's the ceiling? Where your section's taken. Oh, it's going right through the toilet. Maybe just do a
Yeah, you can move it.
yeah, that's one thing. If you have a working section that you're just utilizing for your working views, move it around. Utilize it as
Now
something to
I can
help
no
you.
longer see the fixture.
Out there and move forward. Oh, you're up at level 4. Is that it? 1, 3.
I don't know.
Is anyone else experiencing the
I
level
I
issues?
unloaded one of the models because levels weren't letting me.
Okay.
I kept the CS and I unloaded the other one because
Do your levels go like 3, 1, 4?
then there's a B1 somewhere, and that's why I just got rid of one of the levels. I said I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean I would keep the CS and unload the other one. You can
So
see
we
the
do
ceiling.
that by managing links?
You can do it there, or also on the bottom left portion of your.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is you can access that managing of links and views and things like that from that one place. Okay.
Yeah. My levels are now in the first
And now they're in the correct place. So there when you're hunting and pecking around through the architectural file, and I mean, this really is a non-issue when you have shared coordinates in place. So on your first project, actually, I mean, I don't know, anybody starting a new project in the next week or so?
Yep.
Get on the phone with me, make
Okay.
sure that's in place, and I'll walk you through that process when it actually is working correctly.
Yeah, I mean Hyundai, for instance, is. You just want to live in our office.
Yeah. Actually, I will take a
We're
slide,
kind of a
yeah.
little serious now.
We talked about it after we
You
left.
think we're joking? We're right here.
That's awesome. I need office space for the next 6 months. Yeah.
Exactly. We have desks.
We need help for the next.
That could actually be fun.
We have private space.
Huh. Interesting. The yeah, that's sad. It's interesting. It's funny, as I was mentioning last night, my new lease in space don't start until June. So, but at any rate,
We'd like to trade in services.
That's actually pretty cool. I wonder if when you
All the other offices are already jealous.
Yeah, seriously. What the hell?
Well, to make you feel better, you get to go back to 79 degree weather.
Yes, exactly right. Well, when you go through this, you won't have to worry about that. When you have shared coordinates going, it's not an issue. Let's do a quick Layout off to the side and plan.
So I guess that's the question. When
Yeah.
we aligned everything, we only aligned it in the plan view.
You have to then go to section view and then put it in place.
Okay.
Yeah, that's for your HLB fixtures because they are completely manual.
Right.
They have no, the numerical controls for changing elevation are only so good. It really demands a user going in and changing them.
But also in terms of when we linked in the Revit file, they didn't quite align up. We
Correct.
aligned them in plan, but then obviously not.
Good point.
the other
3D. But ultimately, the bigger issue is that it should be set up.
Yeah, I mean, for
Properly.
a real project, if we have that, we've got to put our hands in the air and say,
Right.
if these aren't matching, I can't document.
Correct.
Because
Because
we don't
inevitably
know
we're
which
going to
one's
document wrong.
correct.
It's-
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Shared coordinates is a beautiful system. It will work out. So let's go back quickly to a section. Let's make a level for our light fixtures because I do want to do some of the hosted fixtures. I honestly think they are a better way to go because if a whole ceiling plane changes at one time, you can move that level, and it moves all the fixtures. Whereas using the HLB free floating fixtures, you would have to go move them individually or lock them all at
that's
the
what I was
same
about to
time.
ask. So if we were to move them individually, but then lock them to that specific ceiling, still it would move with it.
It should move with it, conceivably. Yeah, and likewise, you could still do reference planes. I mean, they are just the most flexible fixture that you can possibly use. The hosted fixtures, I think, are probably the ones that I would try to use more often, simply because you relieve that one step of having to, you don't have to lock the fixture. It automatically hosts to the level or the work plane or the reference plane.
But even so, the reference plane would need to be locked to that level, wouldn't it?
It would. You'd have to go in. So actually, let's just go through that process quickly and go to a section. But yeah, you're exactly right. Go to view. If I go to my architect tab, remember that's where you get levels from. Level. And I'm going to just create one here. Escape. I'm going to call this, I really like that naming convention actually that you had yesterday. Level 2. And this is an 8/8 ceiling. Okay, this is something that pops up sometimes. Would you like to rename corresponding views? You can probably say yes to this. In your project browser, it's just going to rename the view. Every time you use the level tool, it automatically creates a view with that. Level 2, 8/8 ceiling. We go back to a plan view. Everyone have a level created? Create a quick level. And one thing you can do is if you change your scale to something like 1:1, the nice thing is it gets some of the documentation out of the way of the big level heads that you can't see past. So we create that level. If we go back to a plan, pick any hosted fixture, try to drag it in. Let's do, comparably, I'm going to pick a hosted linear pendant for the fun of it, since that's something that's easily seen. Drag that in. Remember, we are seeing our cross. It's saying, you can't place it here. Place on vertical place on face. Don't do the place on face because right now it's finding a floor. See, mine is saying, okay, yeah, I'll let you place it, but it's finding a floor. Place on work plane. Okay, you want to click place on work plane. We're going to hit the radio button. They call these little round buttons radio buttons. Specify a new work plane. It is going to be level 2, 8/8 ceiling. We'll hit OK. Now, it says that it wasn't visible in that view. I need to go and check my properties before placing that fixture. Part of the problem was is that I had it 8 feet above the floor, which doesn't work. So always, if you get an error that says, you're not seeing this view, likely it's because the properties, when you're creating that light fixture, it's out of range. You just need to go back and
that was the offset?
That was the offset, correct.
Copy monitor.
I did not copy monitor the floor.
I think I'm several. Because don't we want to lock this with something?
You're exactly right. The 8/8 ceiling gets locked to, I'm sorry, the level that you created for that 8/8 ceiling gets locked to the ceiling. We'll do that here in a moment. I think we've locked it.
I don't know what.
To say like a 1-to-1 or something like that. Anything up here in that range should be able to see a little bit better.
Why 2 levels?
Just to be safe, you may want to hit delete and see if maybe, one on top of another. You don't do. It looks like you were okay there. Yeah, you're okay. Well, you have 1 level. You're fine.
This isn't 2.
No, it's locked. It's actually saying the ends are locked. The nice thing with the levels is you can drag the ends out as a group. This is what Robin's experiencing. She's seeing that her level, as she selects it, she's seeing this lock box right here. And that's all this is saying is that the ends are locked, so that if you drag them out, they all move together. Does everyone see how that's working? Which is really nice from a documentation standpoint. They realize that there's a parametric relationship. You're pulling one, and they're supposed to have a relationship with one another. Likely, the computer's saying, you probably want to have the others as well, which is nice. Okay, so look at my linear pendant. Came in upside down. It's a very common thing. It's something that we see happening all the time when we're placing on a work plane. Now here in plan, you can flip the work plane. Select that fixture, and I'm going to flip it over. And there we are.
There's a little, if you click on the fixture, it's that little parallelogram thing.
Okay. So, just to recap, making the level or a reference plane, something that you can host to, you lock it to a ceiling. That way when the architect ceiling goes up and down, your fixtures move with it. Placing the fixtures, if you use hosted fixtures, you may need to open up a section at the same time so you can see if they're flipped. Make sure that if you are placing fixtures and you're not seeing them where, as you would expect, go into properties, make sure that they're at 0 or that they're not 8 feet above where you're trying to place them. In the case of this pendant, watch what happens when I change the offset. See, it pushes itself off. So it is movable off of that work plane. And we just need to be conscious of that.
So the question that I would have in this method of documentation, my understanding of reference planes and levels, which I could be wrong, is that even if you draw a line that's only an inch long on the screen, it acts as if that thing goes to infinity.
Correct.
So,
correct.
While we're locking that to the bathroom ceiling that's at 8'8", let's say in our initial design, the bathroom ceiling's at 8'8", and so is the public corridor. The architect then decides, we want to move the public corridor to 10 feet.
Yep.
What type of indication will we know that they made that change and our fixtures are 2 feet?
Right. Yeah, so what used to be maybe the same ceiling or two different ceilings
Right. Is now changed.
is now changed. Yeah, it's just a verbal coordination.
So is there any way that, I mean, so then my thought is it might be better for us to create or copy all of the architect's ceilings and lock them to their ceiling. So we copy a bathroom ceiling and lock it to a bathroom, we copy a corridor. And
Correct.
put it on the corridor.
Correct.
So then we would know if they move the corridor, our stuff.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, it's like we probably want to think of it in those terms at all. Yeah. Yeah, if you're doing different levels, yeah. Initially, maybe the bathroom and the corridor are the same. But as a time saver, I would agree. I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, 8'8" ceiling on level 2. We'll combine those two, but maybe you do want to break it out as those two things.
But you can't do that with reference planes and reference planes and levels, because they act as if it's over the
As a constant plane, that's correct. They go to infinity. There's no reason that you can't just.
So Michael, when you say copy, do you mean like do the copy monitor, or do you mean like
I don't
actually
know.
physically?
I don't know. I'm just hypothetically, we would want to create a ceiling in our drawing that locks to theirs. Right. You know, that's the exact same as theirs. Hopefully, we don't have to redraw it. That then when we put a fixture there and they move just that one ceiling, we get to move with. Because that's the only concern is that we don't know all the times that they change ceilings, because it could be 2 inches, which from a lighting perspective usually doesn't matter. So they wouldn't usually tell us.
And that's what I was asking before, is if we were supposed to be locking our levels or something. Locking monitor.
But the problem
Yeah.
with a level isn't specific just to that room. That level's over the entire building. So if you place everything on that level and then they change the corridor here, these fixtures down here are going to be flipped.
How did we lock? We can lock that reference,
Yeah,
that
but when
level
we have
to the bathroom
multiple
ceiling.
Yeah, check this out. So what we do here,
Yes.
I'm gonna just unlock that
Again,
piece.
at the original documentation, if the corridors
I'm gonna do an alignment,
all
AL.
on 9, then they change the corridor to 10. We're not going to know that all of those fixtures.
I select the bathroom ceiling. I select the level, and it's I can't select that.
How do I select bathroom ceiling if my level?
Okay, so what I did is I pulled out this little section. I'm in a working section,
Oh, so you.
and I pulled off and I did my align command, and then you have to tab through. Come on, give me a ceiling. Then select a level. Did it let you attach to the ceiling? I'm having a little trouble selecting it. There we go.
How do I get to the ceiling with my level?
So you see how you can actually separate one level. You know, there's this relationship built with the level tag. Right here. And it happens. Those constraints. You'll have to, there's going to be some level of consciousness that you'll have to just always know where the ceiling planes are residing. In this one, we're not able to lock down, and we'll have to take a look at why. It says it's over constrained, and that may be okay. That allowed me to do it. It's a shared coordinate issue right there, because shared coordinates aren't set up properly in the file. Look at this. As soon as I took off the shared coordinates of that linked file, and you won't have this trouble normally, you can tab through, AL, select the ceiling, select the level, and then lock them together. So as that ceiling goes up or down, then your level moves as well. Now look at this. I have in plan 2 hosted fixtures. 2 of them are going to this level. Watch this. If I change this to being only an 8-foot ceiling, for that matter, would never happen, but look at that. See how the fixtures are going up and down with that level? That's a very nice thing to have. Notice the fixture that's an HLB fixture didn't necessarily move with that level because it's free. It's an unconnected item. But if you locked it, exactly right. So watch this. AL, select the level, then select the fixture, then hit lock. Now you're good. The only issue with doing that is that you'd have to do it for each and every fixture. As opposed to the hosted fixtures, they do it as a group. And they'll move naturally with that level as it's going up and down. And you can always unlock something as well.
How can you tell what something is locked to?
So, okay, so say,
Like, how can I tell what my level is locked to?
so if you select that level, if you see a lock
Yes.
symbol coming up, there you go. You have a horizontal lock. Perfect. You can,
Is it that light blue line that's
more or less, yeah. I wouldn't say it's horribly clear.
No.
And in some ways, it demands the user knows what they're locking to. One issue with locking to these ceilings that we should be cautious about is that locking is error prone. Remember I said yesterday, locking dimensions and things like that, use it sparingly. We should, just because it is error prone to a degree, and you'll try. Revit's a very stable program, except sometimes in those locking instances, you'll have files go bad because they're saying, oh, there's too many dependencies being built up. So just use it sparingly. That's what I would say. In fact, locking to the ceilings, I think that's perfectly fine. But let's do some other things here off to the side in plan. I want to show everyone the array command, how to make a group, how to do those types of things. Those are all very valuable tools, things that were used on the courthouse project. I think actually very well. The more I look at that project, Michael, you guys did a really nice job. Yeah, definitely it works. So first and foremost, if you select a fixture, I want to show you how to array, because we're gonna play with the concept of if we were doing a few typicals. Okay, so let's imagine that this structural bay here is a typical area. Okay, and we want to array these light fixtures out. Now, we don't have a ceiling here. There's a few different things we could do. We're going to avoid the ceiling. I'll show you how to draw a ceiling here in a moment after we go through this exercise doing a typical. But let's array out this choffer that we have. The array command is AR, is short, or if you like the icons, it is copy, where is it? Array. There it is. So check this out. I can do the AR array command. Okay, this is critical. I'm sure, Michael, you encountered this. The group and associate issue? Yeah, bless you. Group and associate, there's 2 types. First, you have a standard linear array, and then you have a polar array, just like you do in AutoCAD. Let's say we want to get 6 of these fixtures. So you basically would move the count, change the count to 6, Here's the question. Do you want to group and associate these? Group and associate means that it's going to keep this array as a parametric relationship. We'll show you what this first one is like. We'll keep it at 6 and we will do group and array. Left click somewhere in the drawing area to start to set a base point and a distance. You're going to left click again to set that distance. That distance is going to be basically how frequently those are spaced. I'm going to do 4 feet. Look at it, arrayed out 6 of them. 4 feet on center. Well, look at this. This is cool because when they're grouped and associated, I can select one of the group. There's a little number next to it. Look at this. I can change it. And it will keep arraying them out. So that's when they're grouped and associated. The bad thing is that you can't change the spacing. You can change the count in the array.
I just did though.
Did what? By moving one of them?
But if you click on the activate dimensions, it lets you spread them out and everything, but it doesn't seem like you have a real indication of how far.
Ah, exactly right. Yeah, right. And I think if you try to move one, yeah, what you can do is you can move one, and it spaces them equally.
Yeah.
You know, so that's nice. But you're exactly right. There's no way of specifying again like that 4 feet on center or whatever you wanted to do from the beginning. It's not all that easy, but still pretty nice, right? So check this out. Let's say we also want to array in the other direction. Do array. Let's say we have maybe 3 of these. You can take a group and the nested group, and you can just go ahead and add more in this. We'll space this out a bit more. So there they are. Okay, so groups are like blocks as well because they're editable. So select one of those groups of I guess the last vertical section. You see how I selected one, said I have all the vertical elements of that group, hit edit group, and you go in and it puts you into like a block editor, just like what you experienced in AutoCAD probably when you go in and you do block editor. So here you can do some interesting things, adding and removing items. If there's something else in the drawing area that you want to add to that group, you can do so. You can ungroup it. You can actually also dig in deeper to because it's a nested group. Remember, we used one group we arrayed out, and then we arrayed that group again. So you can say, okay, I want to actually go in and dig in and grab that other one. We'll hit yes. For the fun of it, let's change this to a different light fixture. Let's do 2 by, I'll do a 1 by 4 parabolic. Finish, changes them all. Is that nice? Okay, that's one way of arraying where you maintain relationships, grouping and arraying. Fine way of doing it. I'm going to show you another way, though. HLB, I'm going to start over with the parabolic troffer because that one's so nice and easy to see. Okay. Start my array command again. I want to do 4 of these, but uncheck group and associate. Watch this. Uncheck group and associate. That's 6s. There we go. I arrayed this out, and they're standalone elements. They don't have that relationship built in. The reason I like this latter version is it's a little easier for when we're doing typicals, and I'll show you why. Next thing that we do is we do an AR array. Go 6 in this direction. We'll do 3, 6, and there we are. They're not grouped and associated. You can see here it's very easy to just reselect them. Going over 6 feet. Go grab all of these. Now, if you're doing typicals, this is certainly a nice easy way to go, because then you grab your all the fixtures you've created at the end and you make your own group of that. Hit tab. You're going to see create group after you've selected them. And we're going to call this, it allows you to name it, almost like naming the block. In this case, typical example. Look at that. So now you have a group of these. At that point, you can use your standard move, copy commands, whatever they are, coming off of your modify tab. Copy, CO, works well. CO, you can set your base point as maybe a grid line. Obviously, I was sloppy when I was laying these out. Copy multiple, I'm just going to copy one here, but copy multiple comes from the same place. Top of the screen, copy multiple is a checkbox. And then you have to pick a base point. I'll be very sloppy here, but we'll help get the idea. It just allows you to. Okay. Nice thing is you can always go into that group if you ever need to. Edit that group. You can select all of them or a group of them, and you can change it to a different type, whatever it may be. It updates all of the groups, obviously. It works just like block updating in AutoCAD. Did you utilize groups at all? Brendan? No? Okay. Yeah, these are definitely helpful. They're nice, especially for the typicals. Okay, what if we have the same thing going on the floor above? That's common, right? Let's select all of those groups that were created. I'm going to do a Control-C. And I've used my HLB non-hosted fixture, and that's one thing. For this to work for everyone, that's going to be the demand, because we don't have any work planes up above for them to host to. But we do a Control-C. We go to our Modify tab, Paste, Aligned to Selected Levels. From that point, this allows you to select all the levels that you want to go to. If we had already in place those other our ceiling levels, we would have been able to paste this to those levels in the exact same place. So it's doing the same plan location. Sectionally, we're going to have to we'll have some work to do, because we didn't have those levels set up properly in the first place. Go to a section. Oh, nice thing is actually kept the elevation proper. properly.
A line to select a button, right?
I did. Ah. What's interesting there? Now, you know, it's interesting. It looks like there's something blocking level 3. So we're going to go into VG, Revit links. Let's do by host view because and there it is. Not sure what's going on with the by host view, by linked view. When I've been changing this link back to seeing it by host view, I'm getting better results. At least the work that we're drawing. Yet again, it's one of those things where you need to have that conversation with your architect. Hey, what is the best RCP that we should be referencing? Why are we seeing some things when we go into that RCP? Okay. The copying?
Yeah, to the different floors.
Okay. So select all of those groups that you had made using control. You can select one, and you should be able to right click using control, or I'm sorry, maybe shift. And then right click, and then just do a copy or a control C. That's the funny thing. Copy in Revit is different. Copy clip, I should be saying, is the correct terminology. Do a control C, and then hit escape, and then on your modify tab, paste, pull down, align to selected levels. There you go. Select every level you'd like it to go to. Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with repeats.
Repeats. Makes perfect sense. It's very fast. And then on any floor plan, granted this is a design plan, so it's not as critical. But if we were in a documentation plan, and maybe we should go ahead and set up one of those right now, where you'd actually be doing your annotation, right? It's probably the right time to do this. What we would do from here is we would take, say, level 2, and we would duplicate. We're going to hit rename, and here I would say something like level 2 RCP or something that makes it whatever you'd want to see coming out on the sheet. And that view usage, we'll change that to documentation. And then this is really, it'll have to be an internal discussion on what you're naming everything. In here is where you'll ultimately do all of your tagging. You can do it in the other view, but maybe it's not as helpful. And of course, when we're here, we can say annotation, and we'll hit tag all. Scroll down to lighting fixture tags. We'll hit apply. We'll go OK. So there we are. It tagged all of those lighting fixtures that are in the project in one shot. I don't know how many that was right there, but it was good 60 or 70 fixtures. Okay. Did everyone get through that stuff? Tagged all? In a documentation view? And I know it seems cumbersome and maybe an extra step to do design and documentation views, and it is to a degree, but you really will benefit from it once you have views on sheets or things that really set up how you want to have them set up. Where the working views you utilize as your primary working views. It's just much safer. It is cumbersome here at the beginning. And, you know, like for an MEP firm that's doing all mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineering, a lot of times those folks that are setting up are making 5 and 6 copies of the exact same floor plan and just changing the discipline, changing the name, all of those types of things. Check this out. I'm going to edit this group, and very quickly I'm going to go in and just apply some type marks to this. Here's A1, hit apply. And this will be edit type A2. And tag all of them and with the right name, number, all those things.
And something that you know,
Sure. Oh, no, hold on just a second. What's that?
and something's part of
Of a group?
the copy and manage group.
Oh, okay.
But I can't.
Hit select that fixture and hit edit group. We need to go in and say yes to this.
Keep drilling down.
You got it. Yeah, great.
Okay.
That's the exact same way I look at it too. It's like going in deeper and deeper.
I just feel like it's when you have to explode something so many times.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, did you see when I was arraying it, there were 2 different ways you can array where you group and associate, or you do the non?
The non was much easier.
I think the non is much easier as well.
This was my leftover.
Yeah. And let's face it, normally we're on a ceiling grid and we don't have we're not placing fixtures willy-nilly.
Right.
Quickly, I'll just backtrack.
Well, I'm getting a different
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay, cool. Because it was arrayed out too. Same thing. If you could cancel here, click on that fixture and look at the top. Look at the ribbon. Edit group. That one more time. Hit yes to this. You're drilling in and getting further and further. There you go. Now hit edit type.
So is it a group within a group?
Nested groups. Yeah, exactly. It depends how you array. Like there's the 2 ways. You can array with the group and associate, which then basically creates nested groups, or you can array without grouping and associating. I kind of like them free, and then you group it together all at the end. I think that's easy. here. I don't know. It's a little. There's not a perfect way.
I have a quick random question, because one of the things I'm thinking about is obviously one of our biggest difficulties is finding what the ceiling height is for a room. So we talked about spot elevations, but it looks like if you go up in level, it goes up with you. So level 3 becomes 33 feet instead of 8 feet. Is there any way to change that so it's more specific? So even on level 3, it'll tell us that it's an 8-foot.
That's correct. In the Manage tab, let me just make sure. There is. Let me do a bit more digging in that, but there absolutely is.
One of the things I'm thinking of for our workflow, which might be helpful, is under the design portion that we take the time, day one, to put in spot elevations of all the rooms.
Makes sense.
Because at the very least, when we talk with, our team during design, we then know what the ceiling heights are when we print them out.
Yeah. That makes sense. There is. There's a setting in here. What's this?
You can tag all ceilings, can't
Um,
you? Like the ceiling heights or not? Or you have to go through.
But will it recognize ceilings?
I think you'll have to do it individually. It will. But the thing is all that the let me get back to you on where this is, but it basically comes down to the spot elevation tag, knowing whether or not to reference the level that's closest to it,
Right.
or the one that goes all the way down. And there is a place to change that. Yeah. Is this helpful? Is this portion helpful? All the grouping and everything? Great. Okay, yeah, that's right. And we're at 8, right?
Yeah, how do we move the tag?
Okay. Cool. So hit OK. So click the tag. Check this out. Select one of them. Select one of the tags. Right click on it. Select all instances in view. And it grabs all of them. And then type MV. And you can move them all at one time. Also, your arrow keys work. If you just want to nudge them up and down, your arrow keys work all at one time.
But it's moving. Give in.
The other type marks as well. Exactly. So if it's a particular group that's offending, you can include the tag in the group, which I think you were doing a lot of that.
We had detail groups that had, and it was for that reason, in the sense that for our project we had one courtroom that was used 12 times. So we documented one courtroom, we tagged everything, made it look good, so tags were where they should be, and then attached that within the group so that it's then copied and pasted without having to adjust.
That makes a lot of sense.
But we should probably show how to add tags
To that group.
to that group.
Yeah, okay. Let's do that. I'm going to undo back to where I just have a basic group with no tags in it. I'm going to hit Edit Group. I'm going to go to my Annotate tab, tag. And, I'm sorry, cancel. I need to go to my Annotate tab. I can only tag by category externally from the group editor. I'm going to make sure that I don't have the leaders on. Go here and tag each one of these individually, just for this group. A little bit of repetition here, which is okay. Click on that group. Notice the tags are not part of that group. Hit Edit Group, and then I can hit Add. Why won't that let me add it?
You have to make them a detail group first.
Is that it? On view. We can group those. Edit group. It's funny, the annotation is view specific. That's a lot of the reason why you can't add it to a group.
I think you actually may just attach instead of that.
Is that doing it?
You give it, when you do that, you click attach, you then give it a name. Call it a, whatever our array is, plus tags, and then you can select.
Just run through this really fast.
So if you click attach instead of add.
There we go. Okay. Finish that up. Finish that up. So that's right, it makes two distinct groups. And that's because a model group can't contain, so the fixtures can't contain annotation. And that's an inherent thing in Revit, because remember, you're looking at the model a variety of ways. You don't always want it to bring the annotation. But the annotation is view specific. If I put notes and dimensions in this one view, it only shows in this one view. There are some types of annotation that do cross over between views, sections, elevations, items like that, but that's the majority of them. So what we did is we created a light group. Watch this. It's two different groups. A light group, and then there's also a tag group. We hit the light group, we hit edit group, and then we did attach. And then we went around, and there's a dialog box that opens. You basically are making a new group at the same time. We selected all of our tags, and we hit finish. And what we ended up with in the end were two groups. Oh, okay, cool.
What would be, I'm sorry, what would be the purpose of creating
If you wanted to be able to tag in the case of the courtrooms, where you come up with one typical plan and you tag it and you get everything in the right place as you like it, and then just being able to utilize that over and over and over again. It really depends, because remember when I said select all instances of the tag and then we were nudging them up? Some people said, oh, if I have other fixtures in that plan, it's not working. Now, I mean, the way of really handling that, I think, is the easier one. Is you just say, okay, maybe you have to do it in certain places. You can't do the select all instances at one time. Yeah, maybe you select all tags in the one area that you need to move, and you move those independently. There's a variety of ways. Yeah, I think that's an internal question if you really do want to pursue.
But if I,
tagging as a group.
so if I create a group
Yeah.
and I edit that one group,
Yep.
and then, let's just say I copy that group,
Yep.
will it update the stuff in the other groups?
It does. So look at this. So if I go into this group, edit group, and I change these two.
Basically, every time you made changes to the master room, it updated the other.
In essence, yeah, I mean, in your head, well, actually, you can pick any of them. So again, we had courtrooms on
Yeah.
5 floors. If on level 1 I changed that typical courtroom, it then went through and changed it everywhere. Where if you just simply copy an array,
You have to update.
you would have to then go to that and you'd have to change each one. So when you have that typical condition, it's beneficial because editing that group then ties in everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's why it helped us.
So when we copied that group to other floors, that's then connected.
It's all still connected, yeah. So we change one,
I
it's
mean,
changing them all.
In a loose way, you can think of it in a way like an XREF, where once we get a new XREF from a client, it kind of updates in our drawings.
Well, I guess I would think it was
It's-
more of
It's
like
like
a
a
block.
W block.
Yeah, I mean, or a W block
Yeah.
where,
And you redefine that definition whenever you.
and then it's taking it through everything. So where you have that very repetitive stuff, it's helpful. Now, if you, I mean, we've also worked on dorm room buildings, not in Revit, but literally floor 3 is the same as floor 4. It may not be worth changing or creating an entire group for that, because the entire floor would change if anything. So if that's the case, we probably just document a floor, delete the one above, and copy everything else. But in a case where individual courtrooms may be changing, individual rooms that are very repetitive, it definitely helps us out. So that's what.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to use them.
But it doesn't matter. So like, do you always have to go back to the original group that you made, or can you go into any group?
You can go into because yeah, you have them on level 2 through 5. If you change on level 5, it's going to change on level 2. If you change on level 2, it's going to change on level 5. There's no original to it.
Yeah. Correct. So it's really, really helpful. And the nice thing is too, I believe. Yeah, if you move the fixture, the tag moves with it. Obviously, so that's helpful as well. And at 8th, if that's where most of your documentation is happening, the tag normally comes in around the right place, but it's, yeah, amazingly helpful. So let's check out a quick fixture schedule. Let's see what's happening. Look at that. We're getting a variety of fixtures that are coming up. If you have one where the type mark is empty, for whatever reason, I normally just delete that row. It means that there probably was an erroneously entered light fixture. Maybe something, someone in my case, I am prone to accidentally dragging something on. You can check for accidentally placed fixtures through your schedule. That was a perfect example. But look at this. You're getting your count, getting all of those things at one time.
Well, I think one of the things, because I started looking at the schedule that I'd be interested in other people's viewpoint, is that, again, formatting aside from our schedule, because we'd obviously like to make it look better, what database information is missing? So, for instance, the 2 that I already have is an ordering code for the lamp, as well as a lot of times we have electrical location for our devices. So, is it a remote ballast? Is it a remote power supply? Is it an integral ballast? Is it an integral power supply? Those have been the 2 that I've not seen in the schedule. So I guess are there other just database information type things that we should have in here that we don't see?
That's a good point. Yeah, so there is a ballast column, but
Which I think that would be more if we wanted a specific.
oh, got it.
So again, so it's almost like where we have the lamp quantity. That's great. We need that. We then need a lamp ordering code.
Cool.
Same thing for ballast. So the ballast quantity.
Can I ask a
That's in the notes for the,
question
Yeah.
about this?
But a ballast
I have
location.
529 fixtures, which seems like there's perhaps 5 fixtures and top fixtures.
Very
How would I
possibly.
figure that out?
Yeah. So there isn't like a way to figure out if 2
This
instances.
alarm bell goes off in my head. There's no way that I have 529 fixtures in here.
Let's do a quick test. Go out to a 3D view. This is always a good thing to do. Go out to a 3D view just by hitting the little house at the top of the screen. And you can see immediately all the native fixtures that you have drawn. When you're arraying out those fixtures, it's surprising how quickly.
Well, if you
No,
put them
but
on different floors.
I think
Yeah.
it should have been 280.
Yeah, you may have copied to the same place accidentally.
I think I might have pasted twice. How would I do something? Because that's obvious. That was drastically
Okay.
I think you might just have to go to a place and delete one, see if there's still one there.
Yeah, let me check this really fast. Make sure we're not pulling from the linked file too. Okay, we're not.
There's one.
There's, yeah,
Lots
I
and
have
lots.
two of
Okay.
everything. Awesome.
So, because it is so easy to copy from level to level, if you run into a mistake like that, I would recommend deleting the offending levels or the areas where you don't have it right. Make sure you get the one floor plate correct again.
Oh,
Copy
you
that
just
around.
You would just completely delete.
I would completely do it, and actually go back to a 3D view. The easiest way to do that, everyone, is in a 3D view. Check this out. Go to your little house view, and there's this view cube. I would go to a front view, and watch this. Just draw a window around all of your other levels. See that? Draw a window around all the upper levels, leaving the one level that you're working on. Just hit delete, just to be safe. You go back, and then you can see floor plate. You know, fixture schedule. Should we talk about the data side of this? Let's add those. I'll show you how to add a custom parameter right now because it's extraordinarily customizable.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, in our standards template, have
We have this schedule. It's nice because it automatically starts filling itself out as the fixtures are placed. So this is a standard. Those columns really in the schedule, like the lamp quantity, ballast, things like that, that's actually custom to HLG's template. That's a custom parameter. And if we want to add things like the ballast code, we can add that right now on the fly. And then we'll put it in the template.
Yeah, so what I'm curious about is whether we should make
Yeah, I think that would be critical. The good news is that if consensus cannot be found immediately, next week or two or three as new projects are starting, you can always update this schedule from that central point. Once there is a consensus, we can say on an active project, say, starting this week, say, I need to make this new schedule. I need to make the old schedule match the new version, and it will update automatically.
But so, for instance, with the ballast thing, that's something that we'd have to change within each of the fixture families itself to carry that.
Every project carries its own series of parameters. You can attach a piece of data to any model group. So pieces of furniture, we could say, this particular project, there's something funny about it, that it needs to know lead. Lead is a great one for data pieces. What lead credit could this particularly could it contribute to? So we can, on the fly, we can say, we're an interior designer, we do lots of interior layouts, and our furniture needs to contribute to a lead credit. We're going to suddenly add that data parameter to every piece of furniture. So that as a piece of furniture is utilized throughout the project, it carries a piece of data. It can be filled in manually for what credit does it apply to. And the same we can do that for lighting fixtures. We can just say every lighting fixture in this project needs to carry the ballast code with it. And you can do that fairly quickly. You don't need to go into the lighting family.
Okay. Are there any things that we would need to, I guess, go into the lighting families to
Absolutely.
really do?
The IES file, that would need to be
Right.
done.
that's specific to each family.
specific to each family and requires you going outside of the project that you're working in or the template that you're working in. It requires you going into each one. It's more time consuming and a little harder.
Right, which we had already talked about making it so that we can add
Correct.
files to all of our stuff, which I think we've done.
Yeah. That's the only thing. So when you're doing a custom IES file, you have to go externally into the family. But other than that, there's no need to go into the family and set up a shared parameter.
Okay. But pretty much if we decide that our template wants to have ballast info, the lamp ordering code,
Correct.
that we change in the template itself. And for future projects,
You got it.
it's there.
It's there. Yep. Exactly.
Do you think would you say better to have too many categories?
I'd say have too many, and then you can always remove them. If the idea is that we are going to export out to Excel anyway, because it just ultimately will look better for formatting, it has, formatting controls probably won't be satisfactory within Revit.
And you can't hide columns
You actually can.
if there's not data that we want.
Right.
You can.
You can hide them.
So the count, for instance, if we don't want to show, if the contractor's going to be looking at it, we don't want them to see a count,
Correct.
we can hide.
We can hide it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hide it here.
Tailored more towards a
I
project.
know there's someone in our LA office has done what parameters we should have,
Cool.
and she's very, very thorough, so I think it's probably parameters.
Oh, wow.
So we may want to edit that down, but at least it's a place to start.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a great idea. Well, I'll show you what's going on under the hood so you can see what you can pick from, maybe, and then you can see what you can add. In a schedule, the available fields.
Before we move on,
Yeah.
we could have a couple different schedules though too.
Oh, absolutely. You could duplicate this schedule. You could call it Brandon's special lighting fixture schedule that no one else can use. You know, you can do whatever you want to do, and you can have as many.
I'll steal off the computer using unauthorized access.
Exactly.
Why would you want to have multiple schedules?
Well, I'm just saying maybe we want one that's going to show more information and one that just shows.
You mean with like
True.
columns hidden?
Yeah, exactly right. It's not even so much columns hidden. It's choosing what columns you want to be shown. So for lighting fixtures, this is a good way of looking at it. These are all the available fields or available parameters that a lighting fixture carries data-wise with it. You know, it's carrying things like one custom piece is control zone, which I added for you all, because we're going to be talking about how to set up a control zone schedule. Things like, efficacy and illuminance, and all those are available fields that you can pull from. And for your schedule, it's just like in Excel when you are picking and choosing. I believe there's a similar interface for data input. I've been there in Excel before, but you can add columns. And so the scheduled fields that are in this particular schedule, we're saying, okay, type mark, manufacturer, model, those types of things. So quickly, we can add a parameter. Let's call this ballast code. And this is a type parameter, right? Because it's going to apply to a certain type of fixture. So we're going to hit type. The discipline, we'll just make it electrical. And ultimately what we're doing here is we're setting up where this piece of data shows up in the properties bar, so it's easily found. Discipline, electrical. Type of parameter, won't let us just do text. We're going to have to take that discipline back to just common. Type of parameter is text. Actually, I don't think we could. Units are very important to Revit. That's one problem with parameters here, is if you try to do more parameter customization, Revit's not good about converting units. So if you're trying to do, LPD, it's very hard. You have to make sure you have the right units. I have one set up already for you that's calculating this. But to try to get watts per square foot and get wattages summed and things like that, you have to just make sure all of the parameters are utilizing the same units. It's not good at converting. For instance, it can't make the conversion from area to volume at all. Even if you know the area times a certain height, it can't do that calculation. So it's in a schedule. So it's particularly frustrating there. So for if you're trying to study your lighting from a volumetric standpoint relative to area, you actually wouldn't be able to make that conversion back and forth. Okay, so that's the reason that the type of parameter is particularly important, and really the discipline. We're just going to make this a text parameter. We're going to group parameter. We can still group it under as being an electrical item, right? Because it's ballasting. Ballasting codes. I'm going to check electrical lighting. We'll hit OK. Okay, so it defaulted to being on the bottom here. We're going to move it up to, I guess, put it under ballasts. Ballast code. Hit OK. Okay, so we had some headers that were grouped, right? We're going to ungroup those headers by, you can't really click in there because you can start to change the text, but just left click and drag through the grouped header, right click, and you can hit ungroup headers. I'm having particular trouble doing just this one. Ungroup headers. If you want to regroup headers, you select them with kind of a left drag, and you select all of those columns at one time. Right click, group headers. And I'm a data person. I really, really like this side of Revit. I find it so fascinating, the way that you can manipulate data and you can really choose how you want it to come out. Electrical information. There are other things that you can do in there. We could sort by level. You know, what if you wanted to have your lighting fixture schedule determined by level? And you would maybe want a summation for each level of the number of fixtures that you have. Certainly easy to do. You can go back into the available fields, go to level, add that parameter. I'm going to move it up to the top. Okay. I'm going to hit OK. And it shows the level that we're on. I'm going to tab back over. Did everyone see that quick move I did to grab that group? Because I'm going to copy now to those levels. I had erased my arrays up to those other levels. Now I'm going to copy them back up. I can select one, right click, select all instances visible in view, gets them all. Control C that, and then modify tab, paste, align the selected levels, grab all of those again, shift, hit OK, and we'll paste those to the same place. Where lots of open views are particularly hard. Correct. Oh yeah, you will. What we need to do is we need to tell it to sort by level. So in the available fields, we have level. We're going to go to sorting grouping here. And this is the thing, you can really start to sort this data however you like. It starts out by doing type mark. We actually would prefer to do it by level and then by type mark. Okay, because first we want the schedule to say, okay, group things by level, only then secondarily do we do the type mark. Type mark 2, you can do a footer. Let's just do a count and totals. We'll hit OK. Look at that. Totals only. And for the sorting grouping, we'll need grand totals. Totals only. There's a lot of manipulation in these schedules. I know I'm moving quickly. I'll show you here in just a second, though. Formatting. Is this helpful? Yeah.
Doesn't, well, I'll wait till the afternoon. The LPD stuff, like by room, would be helpful, but that's probably more dependent on what the architect sets up and they show rooms.
It is, yes. And actually, we're going to run through a quick example on that too. The I'll give my caveat with that one when we that sorting grouping parameter, or the way that you sort and group a schedule. There are so many possibilities. Obviously, it's really endless. Does this help give you a window into the data side, maybe a bit more? And seeing the parameters that are being pulled by lighting fixtures, and then also simply you can just add a piece of data to a model category quickly. We did it through a schedule. Because that was a lighting fixture schedule, that's why we're able to do this. If you go back out to our drawing area, edit group, and you go select any one of these light fixtures, and you hit edit type, look at this. Ballast count will be now, or ballast code will be available. There it is, ballast code. Remember we added that parameter through a schedule? We've just added it, and it was automatically added to light fixtures in the project. So every light fixture will carry that piece of data with it. So we found like doing a footer, and yeah, so there's the, yeah, you can hide. So, oh, here, I'll show you how to hide a column in case you don't want it. Click finish. If you go into, when I quickly go to those tabs, remember we have the available fields, sorting, grouping, formatting, and appearance. You can also quickly edit any one of those particular tabs from the properties bar. If I go into formatting, one thing I did very quickly that you may not have seen is I hit formatting, count, and I did a checkbox for calculate totals. Okay. Like we said a moment ago, is what if we don't want the contractor to see calculated totals? We can check this hidden field, and it's still being calculated, but it just doesn't show up in the schedule. Alternatively, you can just say, maybe I don't want count to show up at all. I'll just remove that out. Remove that piece of data from the schedule so that you don't have to include it if you're worried about that information being found. One thing though, will the contractor ever get your file?
No, I'm thinking of in the, if we're able to make this work, that this is our schedule, that we're then printing and including in our spec book.
Yeah, right.
It's those type of things.
Gotcha.
You know, what information are we actually giving, what's necessary, and what's not. That would be one thing we don't usually share quantity.
This is an interesting point. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if this does become your formatting, yeah, if you can format it well
I
enough.
don't think it's there yet. Maybe it is in the future at some point.
The product's been around for 10 years and they haven't done anything to help schedules in their formatting.
But even so, this could be useful going from here to Excel for an electrical engineer, which again, we don't usually format because they'll put it directly on the drawings.
Yep.
We again would want to put counts
Right.
with that,
Right.
just because the electrical engineer may mistakenly put the counts on the drawing and then.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely want to show it. So a process that you may want to use is you're in the schedule, R pull down, export, reports, schedule. You export the schedule. It defaults to being a text file, and that's the only way that you can export it. But that's okay. We'll do HLB lighting fixture schedule.txt. We'll hit save. It's going to be exporting column headers, multiple rows, yada yada. That's fine. One problem is that the units aren't respected in this, and so if you have a summation of wattages or things like that, it's not going to work when you bring it into Excel. Open up a session of Excel just to show everyone how this works. Can't do connections that way. Let me just make sure this is working properly before I mention it to everyone. Revit. Okay. I'm going to undo that just so I can show everyone how that works. Okay. In a blank workbook in Excel, you can just follow this quickly. It's nice. Everyone has Office 2010, I would imagine, going. The Excel 2010 is really nice. Because it comes out as a text file, you'll hit From Text, which is on your Data tab. From Text. Browse to your text file. You'll hit Import. Just accept all the defaults here. I generally just go to Finish and then hit OK. This is how it comes in, and you can start to format this however you need. The nice thing is that you can come back in here and you can manually refresh this data. So if your schedule is constantly changing, just ask your people to do a quick, or you yourself go do a quick export. This data will automatically update, which is nice.
But will all of our formatting be lost?
It is not.
What happens if you add stuff that's added? It'll add.
You're okay. Yep, you're okay. As long as I believe that you cannot add a column in the middle. I think that this data zone needs to be preserved from there to there.
You end up losing, if you like merge cells,
Yes.
you end up losing
You'll lose. Okay, you'll lose it at that point. So.
One of the things that, one of my takeaways from the work that the previous guy that was sort of the Revit specialist in LA, one of the things that he was experimenting with was linking Revit to database and then having the database itself
Oh, got it.
so that it was a constantly updated link and therefore that when you make the change in Revit, it syncs with the database and then it
Gotcha.
syncs with the Excel spreadsheet. So that would be like an advanced topic we want to maybe cover down the line.
I don't have any experience with that actually so far. I would really like to know more about it. I personally have not done it.
Yeah, no, in Revit, I believe you could link to a SQL database or an Access database or whatever. I forget. I have to look back and see how that.
Yeah, let me know how he was doing that. It was a constant thing going on in the background.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
there's, I know. I mean, this is a while ago, but I know there's a way to link
Okay.
some things to.
Great.
Yeah, the schedule.
Okay.
That's,
Great. Without having to export it is wonderful.
yeah, I have to look at my emails from way back, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I can find that.
Yeah, we could run a few tests, but that ultimately, I guess that's the workflow I've used in the past to get schedules out and then reformat them and then updating the data. You just refresh it. Yeah.
We were talking about hiding.
Yeah. It hides it from view, and I believe it does not export it, but I'm not sure of that.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, we had cost hidden. Or no, I don't know if we had cost hidden. I'm not sure if it hides it from the export.
Okay.
My guess is that it does. But if it shows up in Excel, you'll just have to hide that column there. But is this helpful, doing it by level and just gives you a bit more insight into everything? Now, what's not necessarily working, what's this is interesting, is let's say for all of our A1s, don't go into the fixture itself to assign this information. You can, but there's just not a whole lot of reason to. You know, let's just say we enter it all from this place. Okay? It's going to change all of the A1s. You can do all the model information right from there. Lamp quantities, ballasts, mounting, drag all of these out. Okay. So you can add all this information very quickly. Yeah, you're getting headers and footers. I like the fact that everyone looks like they're manipulating the information fairly well in their schedules. Be able to get footers and headers and all those good things. Automation. And that's all coming from sorting and grouping. That's that's the thing that's giving you your headers, your footers. This electrical data, that does come from the light fixture itself. So that's something that we could go in and take care of right now. That group comes in as 0. Because it must be entered. My apologies. Actually, I have to go externally. There it is. That's one thing to note is that as you get a specific fixture, you may have to go into the family editor and update that.
Kind of has to do with schedule.
Yeah.
I in schedule ended up with
Oh, okay, great.
why?
Yeah.
Why do I have two level
2 level 2s.
The actual level 2 in the ceiling.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. So that's one thing. If you want to go in and let's go see if either one, anyone where you can just go in and your levels and see. Okay, here we go. You can delete level 2 dependents. So, okay, yeah, anytime you create a view off of that level, it will associate everything with that level. So when you delete the level itself,
Now, did I just delete fixtures?
there should not be any fixtures. Were they hosted to that level?
Really?
Yes. So be cautious of that.
Right.
Yeah. They, that's right, because they were on that work plane that we probably hosted. So yes, they were. So, so you can very quickly see how you can apply things to very quickly throughout a project. What if we need to make a quick derivation of an existing fixture in a project, but it changes just a little bit, right? We can do that on the fly. Let's take a 2x2 parabolic, edit group. I'm going to select one of these, edit type, watch this, duplicate. Duplicate. Ah, you can't do it in editor mode. Sorry about that. That's all. LF, I need to start using that one. Work plane. Mine, of course, are not showing up either there, so we're going to go to that view, go to view. Zero. Okay. Let's do an HLB. Okay. My apologies. We needed to do this externally of the group. Take an existing 2x2. You just may have to pull one in. And let's say we have just a derivation off that, slight model change. Something like that. Maybe a manufacturer or model. We hit duplicate. And immediately it's a 2x2. Maybe we want to be specific about this. Why would there be some reason you would need a different? Let's just say MFR change. Okay. And I'm going to make this type mark, you know, A1.1, or maybe you want to make it an A4. Anything that you will need it to be. Delete that, go back into one of my groups. And now that I'm in my group, it is immediately available. That 2x2 MFR change is available. Hit finish. There we are. Coming in just underneath. So I just made a quick copy. Maybe if there was a slight derivation, you can duplicate it right there.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about the process of, to Brandon's point early on about the naming, because it'd be beneficial to have F3, for instance,
Yeah.
easily viewable. I think it's great that we have the fixtures already in our template, but I'm wondering if once you start a project, it almost becomes project specific, where we start naming them F1.
Yeah.
Start naming them F2.
I would agree. It's maybe not a bad way to go, and that's fairly easy to do.
We would just hit duplicate at the beginning, name it.
Name what you want. I mean, I think yeah, from day one, we don't
Yeah.
touch the fixtures. We always start with duplicating.
Right.
Name it what you want, because it is. Then as I go to level 3, and I know we did a markup, I need to place an F1. I can then find in there. I don't need to try and remember that F1 was a 6-inch compact fluorescent wall washer. I can find a name that it says F1.
Yep. Correct. I think that's a great way to go. Yep. A few ways you can do it. You can rename.
Could we pick what categories these sort under?
What categories?
Like,
they
see,
sort of-
like in the views, we can select where we want it to sort, right? Somehow there's something that dictates right now that if this fixture is under HLBC.
I wish. Yeah, we can't
So
get
yeah,
that.
so if we went through and renamed this one
But
as
had
F1,
Yeah.
had a thing that's like HLB project fixtures.
I wish we could add a sorting. We can't. We can't add a sorting parameter to do the
So it
family
has
area.
to be the main, the original family.
Yep. Well, there's a few ways you can do it. You could do. You can either name a type under the initial heading, so we could rename that duplicated one to F2 or F1, or we could rename the whole recessed parabolic troffer family F2.
well, maybe that's where we create that duplicate of the entire family at the beginning and say,
Yep.
that's now called the F2 series. Because I know that a lot of times we'll operate, if we have a 32 watt CFL as F2, but we then 42, but it's everything else is the same, that would become F2A.
But so you would rename this.
So
whole
duplicate that
family?
entire thing.
But what happens like if we have a couple different linear pendants that are different stuff? That would all be F2s.
No, but I think in duplicating it, all of those become an F2. Then if you have an F4 that also needs that, we'd still have that original starter
Yeah.
that you could then create F4. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I have the answer right now. You gotta play with it, but
Yeah.
somehow naming so that
It's easily found.
Series is in there.
I've found it appears that it's easiest when you duplicate under the original heading. I mean, that's what I've heard other folks saying is that you duplicate under, so HL, let's say our recessed parabolic trough or your starting point, you duplicate within that and then name that F1, F2, F3. The bad part,
Debating about making a separate folder.
kind of,
Yeah,
can't we, yeah.
You can't make a new tab. It's like F1 parabolic.
So it's a double-edged sword. I don't think there's a wrong way though. I mean that's the thing. It's of little consequence to choose one path or the other. If your goal is to be able to sort it and see it easily here.
So this is where, I mean, this kind of brought me to a question that I had yesterday that I started thinking in my head. Because when I originally documented, we had no symbols. So that meant to me, I went to manufacturers and just got something that was close. So in terms of our project organization, I had a separate folder that said fixture families. And I then loaded each of those individually into our project. And in that case, I was able to, that's exactly what I did, I renamed it F2. So that I didn't have all of these in a project, I had only what I had used. So,
Not a bad way to go.
I mean, right now, we don't have any of these fixtures as families, they're all embedded in the template.
Embedded in template. There, I have a freestanding library,
So this
some
would
that works
kinda be
there.
like
So
how we have a freestanding library. You can import the block from CAD if you want to individually, or you can go to the folder.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it may be better that our template has none of these fixtures in. That our office, and hopefully eventually when we have a centralized location, has the Revit HLB library that then we each know if you need, we have a folder structure in place that if you need a recessed 6-inch,
Sure.
To be honest, we actually have a folder structure in place in LA that we started a while ago for Revit fixtures. I think it's way too detailed and complex, but it can be pared down so that we know if we're looking for a 1x4 indirect troffer, we can go to this folder and load it in and then rename it.
It's very similar to how they're already named, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think the naming convention so far from what I've seen is great.
Cool.
So it may just be if we pull that external to the template, then we
Yeah.
have more of that.
Load them in as you need them. Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing too is you can always. Sure, you can start it, and this is actually something we should talk about from a management standpoint of your project. If you get going and you realize you don't need everything, or you just need to clean up every once in a while, off the Manage tab, there's a Purge Unused. Yeah, certainly.
But you will lose anything you haven't used. So in this case, all those fixtures that we haven't used will go away.
Yep. You can normally the way I do a Purge Unused is I start out by doing check none. So it starts off checking nothing. Yeah, isn't that cool?
I gotcha.
So you start off by doing check none, and you can start to rid yourself of the ones you know you won't need. You can start off that way.
Or just get rid of all the other stuff besides lighting fixtures.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And actually, your template's as light as it can be. You have to keep a certain number of system families in there because it's MEP maintains. You have to keep some pipes and you have to keep some mechanical equipment. And
But now, if we were to purge it, we could get rid of those.
no, you still can. I wish
Oh,
you
so it's
could.
in there?
Yeah, it's forever embedded in there. They call it a basic system family that you just don't have any control over. Yeah. Disappointing. Because I would love to get rid of so much of that other information that you just don't need. I would love to be able to sort the families. I think everyone's desiring this need to sort families, like you can sort views. Can't do it. Basically, what it comes down to is view. I'll show you what's happening under the hood. View, user interface, browser organization. 2 tabs, views and sheets. We made a custom parameter for you that's called by view usage. That's saying if it's documentation or export or just a design view. You can also, you could rename that if you wanted to, but you edit that, and ultimately it's grouping all views by view usage. That's why you see when you make a new view, you get the question mark. It doesn't know what the view usage is. You change it, and automatically it groups. So that's how that's working under the hood. Same thing is happening for sheets. Sheet type, whether it's a presentation sheet. So you can manipulate this and change it to be whatever you want it to be. Unfortunately, you can see browser organization only gives you views and sheets. I wish they had a 3rd tab for families, so that you could hide and cull that family listing as much as you could, but unfortunately we can't. We did some arrays. I just want to do some other things. Let's do. Okay.
I mean, I would also say one of the things in terms of best practice as our team, before sending a package out similar to CAD, we should be purging.
Yeah.
Because inevitably you get crap in there that you don't need, and to keep our model size down, to try and clean up as much as possible for our clients, we should be purging once it's all said and done. So something good to keep in mind.
Let's just jump back to that level 2 plan, because one goal is that I wanted to go through just some 2D documentation stuff, and that we, what is this view? This is reflective ceiling plan level 2. From the annotate tab, there are a lot of really nice things here. Of course, we can tag all lighting fixtures. We've seen how to do that. But let's just talk about some basic annotation. There are 2 different types of lines in Revit. There are detail lines and model lines. Detail lines are 3-dimensional, and they show up in every view. Detail lines are view specific, and they only show up in one view. Okay? One other thing is, once you get into the families, you'll see symbolic lines. Symbolic lines show up only in plan, or elevation, or the view that they were created in. Just say, let's say for now, symbolic lines are like annotation detail lines. Detail lines are very nice and easy to utilize. You can say if like you want to do center lines on fixtures to show that maybe there's alignment there. You can do DL as the shortcut. Detail line. So let's save. Detail line, you start the command, it's basically like drawing lines. Before you get going though, you have the opportunity to change the line type. Okay? And by the way, even before you're drawing the line type, there's different types of shapes you can draw by default. Splines and arcs and lines. We're going to use straight line segments for now. Line style, I'm just going to change this to a center line. So you draw it just like you would any line in AutoCAD. Change my scale to 1/8 so I can see a little bit better. Select all my fixture tags. Move those up. I think I am. Yeah, I lost track of where I am. I would say ultimately for all your text and tagging and things like that, do as much as you can in a documentation view. So like here for a center line that we may want to do a DI dimension. Check this out. You can select center lines of fixtures. Drop that dimension out there. And then I'm going to do alignment, center line of fixture to that center line I just drew. CO multiple 6 feet over. So if you're on a gyp ceiling and you're wanting to space these out, do that.
And you had mentioned DL. What's the difference between that and if you enter LI for lines? Is there any?
No. No,
the
the same exact
I
thing.
use the LI a lot for drawing construction lines flowing.
You got it. They're so helpful, isn't it? Yeah, I use them all the time. If you go to the Architect tab, you can do a model line, and that's a 3-dimensional line. And that's going to show up in each and every view and everywhere and all the time. It's not like a reference plane. It's not defining a plane, but it is 3-dimensional. Okay, so a lot of times I use these detail lines, and if you remember one thing in the drawing area that you like and you like the way it looks, you can right-click and do a create similar. We can copy multiple. There you go, if you want to do a quick layout grid. You could even align your light fixtures to this detail line grid once you get it just the way you like it. Check this out too. If we dimension off of, say, wall face, I'm going to give a dimension somehow that we're locating this light group. MV. Moving 1 1/8 inches. Look at that input really fast. Moving the whole group down. I grabbed the whole group. I did a crossing window just like you would in AutoCAD. And I did MV. MV for move. And then I left click to set my base point. And then I put the cursor in the direction that I wanted to move. And we should actually run through that, quick move command. You put the cursor in the direction you want to go, and then you type in that distance that you want it to move, and everything shifts over. So we went through yesterday about how to manipulate a dimension. We can double click on it. We can add a prefix. Let's just do a VIF as a under, below. Is that locked? May want to do a plus or minus. So dimensions can't be added to those groups, but you could certainly add the fixture tag and the detail lines, those like layout lines. You could add those to a group and link that all in if you wanted to. Yep. And you know,
I mean, I think unless there's anything immediate pertaining to this, I think lunch is here.
let's do it.
So I think we've got a half an hour here if we want to take a deep breath.
Can you now do the last 7 minutes with me?
Yeah, sure.
That's
Absolutely. Oh, text. Text. Dimensions are straightforward, but we just need to do basic text off of your annotate tab. There's a variety of text types. So text. It may not be as critical for you, but the types of leaders that you're using. I like to do 2 segments. Let's just say we're pointing to something, and you have a justification, left, right, where the leader's coming from. Let's point to, we'll just point to one of these fixtures for some reason. Don't know why we would need to note this particular one, but so you left click to start the leader, left click to give the elbow, you left click a third time to start the text area or where you're typing. You leave notes to each other in here. It's probably not a great idea to. And do the design views, you can leave notes to each other using text because that doesn't show up on a sheet, right? That's actually something we commonly do. You need to leave notes to another team member. You put it in the design drawing. You just leave it there so someone can find it. You can change it to being red so someone can see. You can do markups even in the software. It'll show up in the sheet. So that's the other nice thing about having design views. Those are working views that never are outputted.
Well, I mean, technically, a design view
Could be outputted. Yeah, exactly.
Is there a way to change the arrow?
There is. So that's some of the customization here. Select that text, hit edit type, and that's where you go in. The arrowheads that are available, generally a bunch of different kinds here. Let's talk about some of the other controls that are here. First of all, the color. The line weight is fairly standard. Don't mess with this. Line weight, there's 16 line weights in Revit, 1 being the lightest, 16 being the heaviest. Generally just leave this at 1. The background, whether or not it's transparent or if it is opaque, if you click on transparent, an opaque background I find sometimes semi-annoying with text because if you have floor patterns or ceiling patterns, you'll see a big white box around the text. I normally leave it transparent. You can say whether or not to show the border. Then, of course, simple things like the font, the text size, the tab size, and the width factor. If you want to make a new text type, you would just hit duplicate, right? I'll call this Peter markup text. Look at this. I'm going to make it bright red. I'm going to make the text size 1/2 inch tall so it's very visible. We'll hit OK. And maybe I'll change the orientation. It doesn't work as well as mText. Like in AutoCAD, you double click in there. Let's see this. This. There it is. So you could do quick markups to other people within the office, questions, reminders to yourself. It works like a post-it note. You know. I think that's it. Detailing, we haven't done any detailing yet, but we can jump to that. Type parameters, fixture schedule, to the energy flexibility of HLB families. Fixtures, how are we locking? Okay, you know what? Let's while we're eating, let's just make sure we have covered everything, because in some ways we caught up where we were yesterday and we started over to some degree, but
We've also jumped ahead in some sense. And,
yeah, I want to make sure we're answering everything
yeah.
that's there. Is this stuff helpful? The
Yeah.
documentation side of things?
I mean, this is what
The meat.
it's the setup and the actual.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I was really thanks for that finding the discipline. That was good. Good hunting and pecking, and that was exactly what it needed too. I still would have been looking for it. So thank you.
Just an update on what I was mentioning before about the database.
Yes.
It's actually an add-in to
Oh,
Revit,
okay.
and it's called the Revit DB Link.
Okay.
add-in. And basically the description is the Autodesk Revit DB Link tool allows you to maintain a relationship between a Revit DB Link project and a Microsoft Access, Excel, or ODBC database.
Oh, fantastic.
Use Autodesk Revit DB Link to export Revit DB Link project data to the database, make changes to the data, and import it back. The database displays Revit project information to a table view that you can edit before import.
Cool.
This table view also allows you to create Revit shared parameters, which adds new fields for those parameters in the related tables. Any change made to these new fields within the database updates Revit shared parameters upon.
Wow. So that's helpful, and that's a free add-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cool add-ins if
We
you're on
talked about that
subscription.
briefly yesterday, yeah.
We'll need the one for spaces as well. I don't know if you can seek that out and download it now.
I can probably get it.
There's an add-in for, we're going to do spaces later this afternoon because I really want you to be able to do your LPDs. With this, I really would like you to start being able to do some initial illumination calculations in here.
What about little room names?
Yeah, that's actually coming in through this little add-in feature. Revit MEP uses spaces rather than rooms. And rooms are three-dimensional, but spaces are like three-dimensional, plus they carry a lot of added data. Like they're more so for the mechanical side of things, for heating and cooling loads, the number of people that will be in there, the use type. Cool thing for spaces for you all is that we can set the space type and what the power density budget is for that space type, for that room type. We can do things like the required lumens, or required illuminance, and we can immediately tell if we're meeting that or not. The code, if there's a code required or an optimal, we can set all of that. You're going to see some of those parameters when we. Yeah, it's going to be still rough, but it's a good, quick first series of calculations.
Well, the other thing is obviously that we don't meet energy code in rooms a lot of the time, like bathrooms. Just because naturally it's too low. So I mean, we just have to look at that check and balance, but then also have some way of summarizing the entire building and whether or not that falls below kind of the allowed.
Yeah. Oh, you do a summary for your LPDs?
In essence, there's two ways of going about it. One is a whole building method,
Okay.
where you call the entire building whatever it is, and there you go. We rarely use that. Usually what we use is the space by space method.
Okay, cool. That's
Which
what this is set
means-
up for.
But then at the end of it, all those spaces are interchangeable, so you have your list of spaces. They
That
all
would be
then
the-
add together.
That would be the grand total.
Yeah.
Grand
so we
total.
can look at the grand total of all of those spaces allowed, the grand total of all those spaces used, and seeing if we're flowing.
Perfect. Perfect.
That's the big thing.
This is a cool schedule. This is coming. This is actually, I can't say it was me who came up with it. The IES Oregon chapter or the Oregon chapter of IES, it has a really nice guide on doing calculations within Revit, and I would say it was produced 2 years ago, and so it's still very, very current, and they have a good PDF on this. The nice thing is they give some guidelines on how to do this, and I basically generated this. I found it 2 years ago and love it, and I've found lots of clients. I think you all will really like it as well because it's it's going to give it to you by space. You're going to put in your desired illuminance for that space, and if you're not meeting it, it's going to give you a color. It's saying, red, you're not there. Or if you're going over on your power density for that conditional formatting, exactly. That's all within the formatting, LPD mismatch, in this case, conditional format. Yeah, and if it's less than or equal to a certain amount, it's pretty cool.
Conditional formatting brings out the nerd in me for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, that will be fun. So we'll run through that this afternoon. But let's see while we're eating here, just if there's anything that we need to still cover from the beginning of the morning.
Loaded 4 add-ins to that, right?
Okay, cool.
The one that you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's in there. I did work sharing monitor. I'm not sure.
Great.
And then the model review, which is that maybe that's the one Stacy was mentioning yesterday. Was it the one you were talking about yesterday? The model review, the Revit model review, or maybe it's a separate.
Maybe you're talking about the exporting to the
And then there's
markup.
also Revit MEP
Yeah, I don't know what this model review is.
I don't know what that is either.
What are the process of reviewing holding projects in order this with you as well? Check the accuracy of project or family against standards set by your firm. Inconsistencies with a single click forward.
Oh, that's a good management tool. I've never utilized it, but it sounds like it could be helpful. All that's doing under the hood, and this is good for if you're from a management standpoint, IT standpoint too, is at any point in time, if you have 2 projects open, say the template, and then you have a project file that may have been corrupted or bad, as long as you can get it open, you hit something called Transfer Project Standards, and you can take everything from